has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff. Not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where he's kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names. I get it, blah, blah, blah. But he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights, like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights. And then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for sure shot, must win type of scenarios. That's why we're getting these fights that some people, purists and diehards, are calling wonky fights. You know what I mean? It is your fault.
One of the biggest concerns among boxing experts is the massive size gap between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Jake naturally walks around at cruiserweight, while Tank's true home is the lightweight division. Analysts emphasize that no matter how skilled Davis is, the laws of physics in boxing can't be ignored. Reach, weight, and power still decide much of the outcome. They argue that a sanctioned fight between the two would be risky and unfair. Jake has proven he can take heavy shots from larger opponents and keep pressing forward, while Tank would need to break through a wall of size and strength just to land his power punches. Critics call it a mismatch that defies traditional boxing logic, a spectacle where Jake's size meets Tank's skill, but the imbalance overshadows the sport's integrity.
How do I even start to break down a Tank Davis versus Jake Paul fight? Tank, a massively powerful fighter at 135 pounds, but his punch output is among the lowest in the sport. Jake has a pretty decent punch output for a guy that's 200 pounds. He hits hard in his own right, but doesn't have the skill and capabilities anywhere close, or the feet, or the hand speed, or the eyes anywhere close to Tank Davis, but has a power that Tank Davis has probably never felt, but just because Jake is naturally 70 pounds bigger than him, right? So 10 rounds, 3 minutes, who starts to show the wear and tear first? I know if Tank touches him on the jaw, it's probably not going to feel like roses, regardless if he's 135 or 150 or whatever he steps in that night. He's still a Tank and has still put guys down as he's gone up in weight, but Jake is just so much bigger. How much will the power that Tank has at the lower weight classes affect?
Showbiz the Adult takes a closer look at Gervonta "Tank" Davis's legacy, suggesting it's becoming increasingly fragile. He points out that Tank's career has often been criticized for lacking real, high-risk challenges, and now, the potential Jake Paul fight could further damage his credibility. Showbiz highlights Lamont Roach's strong performance against Pitbull Cruz, one of Tank's most recognized opponents, as proof of how competitive the division truly is. If Roach handles Pitbull more convincingly than Tank did, it naturally raises doubts about Tank's dominance. In boxing, perception is everything. When another fighter outshines your biggest win, fans start to question your greatness. That's why, Showbiz argues, Tank must tread carefully with his career choices. A fight with Jake Paul might deliver a massive payday, but it won't enhance his legacy. Instead, it risks portraying him as more interested in entertainment than in cementing his place among the sport's elite.
He's better than Tank. I don't even know how you cannot have him better than Tank. People question Tank's resume anyway. But if you make Tank take a knee and they don't call it a knockdown and you still get the draw, you beat him. You beat Tank. And then you dominate Pitbull, one of Tank's best wins. Bro, you better than him. The resume, listen, bro. I didn't say greater. I said better. The resume means politics. Ryan was just saying it. Lamont Roach could have been on a back burner, and they were holding him back, so he had to go down to 130, doing the grunt work like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, waiting for his time to shine. Resume, if the business chooses you, they can move you along right. He actually get cherry-picked, and he best Tank, and then he stops Pitbull. He's better. Y'all know how the business of boxing works. You just saw Terrence Crawford actually be the best fighter we've seen in decades. The man, Terrence Crawford, can arguably be better than Floyd Mayweather. Y'all saw the business shit him for all of his career, practically all of his career. And you see that he's better than Nello? What a surprise. We've been seeing a guy coming from lightweight can beat Nello at super middleweight.
Showbiz The Adult dives into the growing fragility of Gervonta "Tank" Davis's legacy, noting that his career has long faced criticism for avoiding truly dangerous opponents. Now, with talks of a Jake Paul matchup, that criticism threatens to intensify. He points to Lamont Roach's impressive showing against Pitbull Cruz, Tank's most recognized rival, as evidence of how stacked and competitive the division really is. If Roach manages to outperform Cruz, it casts a shadow over Tank's dominance and raises uncomfortable questions about how his biggest wins stack up. In Showbiz's view, boxing thrives on perception. If another fighter handles your toughest opponent more easily, fans start to question your greatness. That's why he warns Tank to be strategic with his choices. A fight with Jake Paul might boost his bank account, but it won't boost his legacy. Instead, it risks painting him as a fighter chasing headlines rather than history.
Because if he did, even if this whole Jake situation was in the way, holler at me. Tell me you want to fight Jake. Tell me you got a bag coming up. All right, boom. Like,
go do
it's a way to handle that. We have a contract. You cannot breach a contract and think shit just gonna be sweet. You can't. You can't do that. Right. We have a contract. So it's not like this wasn't supposed to happen or whatever the case may be. And he just went and took the Jake route. We had a signed contract to fight. So him breaching the contract is, if y'all put yourself in my shoes, you got to think, I'm looking forward to fighting and getting paid. I'm looking forward to fighting and winning so I could be two-time world champ. Me. I'm in training for a fight to be a champion in another weight class and for me to be crowned champion twice in my career. And this just goes and then end up announcing another fight. Put yourself in my shoes.
Did you find out just like the rest of us did?
Kinda. I was on the fence because they didn't announce. They was like, all right, we're going to announce. All right, we're going to announce. All right, they're going to announce. Every week. All right, we're going to announce the fight. I'm like, all right, they on the bullshit.
Max Kellerman offers a more balanced perspective, acknowledging Jake Paul's undeniable influence on the business side of boxing. He points out that no modern fighter creates buzz or sells tickets quite like Jake does. That's the real reason so many professionals agree to fight him. It's not about respecting his skill, it's about recognizing his unmatched reach and marketing power. Jake has become boxing's biggest promotional engine, and even world champions are drawn to the exposure that comes with his name. In a discussion with Paulie Malignaggi, Kellerman also explores whether Gervonta Davis's knockout power can hold up against a much larger opponent. Both analysts agree that Tank's explosiveness is world-class, but they question whether sheer skill and speed can offset such a significant physical disadvantage.
Legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists, though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist, if he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them.
But,
the way
Paulie,
we did
there's also-
when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know, the way they
Felix
did even when
Trinidad
Mike
was a
Tyson
superstar.
was doing it in his prime. Okay, say what you want about the Mike Tyson
but
era.
now-
He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No,
and
because
Teddy
he
Atlas
fought
will 100%,
everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at
Teddy
that time
Atlas,
he fought.
Teddy Atlas will 100% agree with this
with the
because
expense
he
of,
would say the
of
guys that
Witherspoon.
were afraid of
With
him.
the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract
say the same thing about-
who had contract issues with King at the time. Oh, except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out.
Eddie Griffin wraps up the discussion with a sharp, skeptical take, arguing that Jake Paul's fights have become less about real competition and more about calculated entertainment. He labels them Hollywood fights, suggesting that the outcomes are carefully managed to protect profits rather than celebrate true sportsmanship. Griffin cites the Mike Tyson exhibition as an example, claiming Tyson could have ended the fight early but didn't, because that wasn't part of the script. He believes the same formula might apply to a potential matchup with Gervonta Davis, turning it into a show built for spectacle, not authenticity. If Jake gets knocked out too quickly, the buzz dies. If he lasts longer, the payday grows. According to Griffin, both camps understand the financial stakes perfectly, which makes the whole thing feel more like a production than a rivalry. Still, he concedes that fans will eagerly watch, because in today's boxing world, controversy often sells better than truth.
I ain't even gonna call it a fight, because it ain't. If Jake Paul's involved in it, it's a great acting job. You know Mike Tyson could have just knocked Jake Paul's face into the canvas, but he got paid to pull punches, otherwise he wouldn't have got paid. I'm pretty sure the same is going for Gervonta Davis. It's a quick money grab. Yeah, most of y'all gonna be suckers who tune in. It's just a quick money grab. That's all I'm saying. Ain't gonna be no fight. I don't give a fuck how big Jake Paul is. He can't take one of them little mother tank punches. Yeah, tank move furniture. Move furniture. Catch that motherfucking move furniture. And Jake don't like his furniture moved, so he gonna pay him not to hit him again. If you really want to show out Gervonta, sign a contract that you ain't gonna hit him, because if you hit him, you lose all the money. And then whoop that motherfucker's ass, put him to sleep, and get him out the boxing game once and for all. Let's go up here.
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next one.